the fact that we are seeing sports now, and we'll take it any way we can get it, but we're seeing sports now in the proverbial vacuum, like in an actual vacuum. We're seeing it in two bubbles, in the NHL and the NBA, and John Tortorella, getting bounced with Columbus, was uninterested in talking about what it was like in the bubble, still reeling from getting the season ending in 5 games to Tampa Bay. And we'll play that soundbite later on. That we're seeing what it's like to have no home court, home field advantage. Home ice, home court right now, and soon we'll see home field. I guess baseball. You know, we're seeing what it's like to be played in a vacuum. I know that all the teams are playing in their home stadiums, and one would think that when you're playing day in and day out, there is some form of an advantage to being at home as opposed to being on the plane and being in a hotel. Just traveling and being in a hotel right now has to be completely different than any other Major League Baseball experience in previous years, obviously. So I'm thinking there could still be a home field advantage in baseball, just in the fact that you're staying at home. There are, as we all know, ground rules that your stadium is different from everybody else's stadium, and you're comfortable playing in your stadium and you're in your own facilities. So there's a certain comfort level. There might be some advantage in baseball, but we're going to see in the NFL, you know, obviously staying at home as opposed to being on the road might be somewhat of an advantage. And I do know that Kansas City's planning on having, 22% of Arrowhead filled, and Jerry Jones is going to want to fill up AT&T with as many Texans as he possibly could, right? Yeah. So I understand that we may hear some fans, and the NFL is already talking about allowing the noises of fans to be pumped into a stadium. Did you hear about that? That they're considering this?
Yeah, I did.
So there might be that. But I would proffer to say that week 2, when Brockman's New England Patriots visit Seattle, that will be a completely different experience that would afford New England a better chance of winning than that entire stadium being filled up with full-throated 12s. I think we're seeing right now in the NBA what it's like to have no home court advantage. Although Luka did get 5 fouls on him last night, like they were playing at the Staples Center against the Clippers.
The officiating has been suspect.
Well, I mean, so at least we know
some
that
things stay the same,
right? But there's no influence of the home crowd,
right?
At all,
right?
And I think we're seeing that, and I think it's anybody's tournament in the NBA. With the exception, I guess, of the Sixers. I mean, the Nets did have a good performance yesterday, and the Raptors, God bless them, they just keep on keeping on.
They're so good.
Right?
Man, nobody talks about them either.
No. Well, not maybe soon enough. You know, and the Jazz evened things up with the Nuggets, and we all know, again, last night, as I mentioned, the Mavericks just poured it on the Clippers. Just poured it on. Paul George had a dreadful night shooting in the bubble. Just poured it on. It could be. Why can't the Celtics go on some sort of run right now and take everybody out? Why can't your C's do such a thing, Chris? They can.
They can. If they shoot like they did last night, they can beat anybody.
This is anybody's tournament.
I agree.
And I am wondering if in the NFL, what that's going to be like this fall. If we do not have fans in the stands, and I know some places will have it, but Arrowhead full-throated is not the same as 22% of them.
No way.
And the interesting thing is, like, even though Dallas fans travel everywhere, I mean, it'll be fascinating to see what stadiums, what the road teams look like in terms of being represented in the stands if fans are allowed in the stands in the NFL. I mean, I think that personally is a pipe dream, and it's dangerous.
Yes. I also don't know how they're going to pull this off. Like, it's such a competitive advantage to say,
if you have fans.
Say Dallas plays in the NFC East and they're allowed to have home fans, but the Eagles and Giants and Washington are not.
Yep.
So only one team in your division is allowed to have fans at home? How could the NFL allow that?
Good question. I don't know.
I mean, like the Raiders.
Other than the fact what are you going to tell Jerry Jones that your governor allows this to happen? Legally, it's allowed to happen. You have the protocols set up in a monster cavernous stadium that seats 100,000 people, and if you can spread 50,000 in there or 40,000 out, you know, and actually set things up where makes sense or fans are comfortable coming, what are you going to tell him? You can't make that money and the other people can't, but we're not going to allow you to do that? I don't know. These are good questions. Is it a competitive disadvantage for the Cowboys? I don't know, man. There's usually, ask them what happened when they were at home last year. Honestly, the Cowboys have been a better road team than a home team the last few years. Now, I know I'm having my fun, and it totally undercuts your valid point.
I'm asking a real question, like, what are they going to do?
I don't have an answer for you. All I know is I think this is beginning to happen. We're already hearing, like, which teams are comfortable playing in front of no fans in an empty gymnasium and which teams are not. You're already hearing LeBron. When was the last time LeBron played in an empty gym?
Probably in middle school.
Right? Like, when was the last time a human being hadn't wanted to see LeBron James play in person because they didn't know about him? Right? Middle school, right? And he's got to get used to it. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.